Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. I'd love to know. And if you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, let's jump in. They thought we were nothing. Just another weak species from a tiny blue planet floating in some forgotten part of the galaxy. The big empires out there, the ones with ships the size of cities and fleets that could blot out stars. They laughed when they heard humans had finally reached the stars. To them, Earth was a joke. Our homeworld was called a dirt ball. Our people called ground crawlers. They saw us as little bugs, crawling out of our nest for the first time, and they didn't care if they stepped on us. The galaxy was full of powerful alien races. The Vortok, with their huge mechanical arms and metal-plated ships. The Hishari, who floated in massive golden orbs and spoke in riddles. The Zarn, who were feared everywhere for their cruelty. All of them had conquered worlds, enslaved species, and ruled the stars for thousands of years. They didn't see us as a threat. They didn't even see us at all. And so, when humanity started to explore, no one paid attention. Our ships were small. Our technology looked simple. We sent messages, asked for peace, tried to trade. Most ignored us. Some laughed. A few even sent warnings. Stay in your system, little apes. Don't wander where you don't belong. We didn't argue. We didn't fight. But we didn't stop either. So humanity stayed quiet. Not because we were afraid, but because we were learning. Every insult, every warning, every time a trade ship ignored our hails, it was all added to the files. We listened more than we spoke. We watched more than we acted. From the far edges of our solar system, deep scanning satellites listened to alien chatter, mapping the routes of starships, analyzing languages, tracking movements. Earth had gone dark to the galaxy. But beneath that silence, we were wide awake. After the Council of Galax, the group of the 11 oldest alien civilizations rejected our offer to join. Humans stopped trying to fit in. The Council said we were too wild, too violent, too unpredictable. Maybe they were right. When they told us to disarm, to melt down our weapons and replace soldiers with scholars, we refused. They called us unstable. We called it survival. And when they kicked us out, we didn't argue. We just disappeared. But we didn't vanish. Not really. We pulled back to Earth, shut down our long-range beacons, dismantled our space stations in plain sight, and moved everything underground. Deep under the crust of old continents, under mountain ranges and ocean floors, we built the cradles. Vast cities of steel and shadow, powered by suns pulled from dying stars, protected by layers of armor thicker than any alien capital ship's hull. Every cradle was a fortress, a lab, and a training ground. There, the real work began. We didn't waste time trying to copy alien tech. We studied it, broke it down, then built our own. Weapons that didn't follow galactic laws, engines that moved without sound, armor that adapted to attack patterns in real time. We didn't build fleets of 1,000 ships. We built a few that could level moons. But the most important thing we built wasn't made of metal. It was made of memory. We remembered every slight, every insult, every cry for help the Council ignored. We recorded the pain of species wiped out while the galaxy debated peace. And we made a promise, not to the stars, but to ourselves. If war ever came, we wouldn't run. So we waited. For years. Hidden. Training our best to fight in zero-G, to fly warships solo if needed, to fire weapons they'd only get to use once. They were soldiers, but more than that, they were ghosts, chosen not just for strength, but for the kind of silence you needed to live in the dark. And all the while, the galaxy kept laughing. The council grew soft behind its treaties. The Vortak turned their blades into banners. The Hishari drifted into dreams. Even the Zarn, for all their power, forgot what fear felt like. They never once looked behind them, never wondered what happened to the primitive species they'd sent packing. But we were still there, and we were watching. The galaxy didn't come looking for us because they didn't think we mattered. But trouble has a way of finding its own path. And this time, it came straight to Earth. It started small. A council patrol ship, just a scout vessel, went missing near the Kuiper Belt. The official report said it hit an asteroid. The truth was buried in silence. It wasn't an asteroid. It was something else, something fast, something invisible to their scans, something that left behind melted hull fragments and a crew frozen mid-scream. Earth's deep-range sensors picked up the energy spike. We knew what it meant. Somebody was testing our defenses, watching our world from the dark. Then came the Zarn. They didn't send diplomats. They didn't ask questions. They sent a battlecruiser the size of a city and parked it just outside our orbit. No warning, no signal. Just the hiss of plasma cooling across its armored plates. Its name glowed in blood-red glyphs across its side. Kestar, which in their language meant the Ender. The Council had signed a non-aggression treaty with the Zarn years ago. That treaty didn't include us. We weren't Council. We weren't protected. As far as they were concerned, Earth was open ground. The Kestar hovered for 6 days, just watched. Every telescope on Earth caught glimpses of it, a red dot flickering across the stars. People panicked. The news called it a meteorological anomaly. Military command knew better. In the cradle beneath the Andes, the war table lit up. Faces turned grim. Commander Vale was pulled from deep sleep readiness protocol after 9 years in stasis. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she asked was, "Is it time?" General Reeves, older now and half machine, nodded once. It's time. We didn't reach out to the Zarn. We didn't warn them. We didn't plead. Because humans don't negotiate with predators circling the door. We prepare. Beneath every ocean, under every mountain, weapon systems woke from hibernation. Rail cores began charging. Cloaked satellites shifted into firing positions. The old shipyards, thought to be abandoned, started humming with power again. Not because we wanted war, but because we refused to be caught sleeping. On the 7th day, the Kestar made its move. It drifted closer. Close enough that its shadow stretched across half the Pacific. The oceans boiled beneath its gravity field. Our atmosphere began to ripple. It sent out one message, broadcast across all human frequencies: submit or be erased. It didn't even wait for an answer. A dozen hatches opened along its belly, each one a drop point for kinetic rods the size of skyscrapers. Earth's early warning net lit up in red. In less than 3 minutes, the planet would be shattered. And then, before anyone could scream, something else moved. It wasn't on any council records. It wasn't part of any defense grid. It wasn't even listed in Earth's own military database. It came from the far side of the moon. No launch signature, no warning, just a flicker of displacement, and then there it was. Black, silent, ancient. Its hull burned with old scars. No colors, no flag. only one name written in deep silver along its side: HWS Oblivion, the first human warship to launch after exile, the last warship ever built with no peacekeeping systems, no emergency beacons, no medbay, only weapons. It didn't speak. It just opened fire. The Kestar never saw it coming. In the vacuum of space, sound doesn't travel. But that didn't matter. What happened next didn't need sound. The moment Oblivion decloaked, everything stopped. Every military satellite blinked. Earth's early warning system stuttered. Even the Zarn ship's sensors glitched like they'd just seen something they couldn't explain. The warship didn't arrive. It unfolded. Like reality bent sideways and spat it out. It was massive, larger than any human ship ever recorded. Not sleek like council vessels. Not organic like Drexer hives. Oblivion was shaped like a coffin with thrusters, long and flat with jagged armor, running across its spine like broken teeth. Its hull was obsidian black, patched with old burn marks and microcrater scars from wars no one remembered. It had no running lights, no transponders, no greetings, only silence. Except for one thing. Written across the front, etched into the steel like a scar, were 5 ancient words: "We are not your prey." The Kestar's response was quick. Zarn don't hesitate. They're conquerors by instinct. They launched a full barrage, 12 kinetic rods, high-yield plasma shells, and a hunter missile swarm, all in the first 2 seconds. The weapons crossed the void toward Earth and Oblivion at near light speed. And that's when the ship moved. Not turned, not rotated, moved. Like it was swimming through space instead of flying. The warship shifted sideways, rolling its body out of the barrage path in a maneuver that should have torn any normal vessel apart. It danced through fire. Then it answered. From the undercarriage of Oblivion, 5 ports opened. Each looked like the barrel of an ancient cannon, and each one glowed a deep, impossible blue, the color of controlled gravity, of physics pushed to its edge. When the ship fired, there was no sound, just light and weight. The first shot hit one of the Zarn's kinetic rods mid-flight. The rod didn't explode, it vanished, erased from the world like it had never existed. The second shot sliced through the Kestar's left wing, clean through metal and armor, through crew chambers and engine cores. The entire wing separated like a puzzle piece snapping off. The Zarn scrambled. This wasn't what they expected. They'd faced resistance before. Rebellions, pirate fleets, even Drexer incursions, but never this. Oblivion wasn't fighting back. It was hunting. On Earth, in command centers deep beneath the surface, every monitor was locked on the feed. Generals forgot to breathe. Scientists whispered readings to themselves over and over, not believing the data. The ship was using weapons no one had ever seen. It wasn't heat-based. It wasn't kinetic. It was something else. Something built not to disable, but to destroy. And still, Oblivion said nothing. It didn't broadcast a demand. It didn't taunt or negotiate. It didn't ask for peace. Because it hadn't come to talk. The Kestar finally fired its main cannon, a Starcore burst designed to melt asteroids in seconds. A direct hit would vaporize half the Earth's atmosphere. The energy beam shot forward in a straight, glowing line of burning red. And Oblivion walked through it. The beam hit its forward shields and spread wide like water against a wall. The ship didn't flinch. It pressed forward through the heat, through the light. The forward plating boiled, but nothing broke. By the time it reached the Kestar's central hull, The Zarn vessel had already begun to backpedal. Too late. The final shot didn't come from Oblivion's cannons. It came from a rotating core beneath the main deck. Something old, something from the original Earth defense programs long before exile. A compression weapon. It folded space, then snapped it shut. The blast didn't explode. It collapsed. The Kestar caved in on itself in complete silence. One moment it was there. The next, it was a swirl of light and debris. It didn't even have time to send a message. Above Earth, space went quiet again. And in that silence, every species that had ever mocked humanity, every empire that had ignored their messages, every council that had cast them out, felt something they hadn't felt in a very, very long time. Fear. Because Oblivion hadn't been a symbol. It had been a warning. And the real message was still coming. Word spread fast. Even in a galaxy this big, fear moves faster than light. The destruction of the Kestar wasn't just seen, it was felt. Across thousands of star systems, sensor logs picked up the same readings: gravitational shock waves, subspace interference, and one final data burst before the Zarn ship disappeared. Some species refused to believe it at first. A glitch, they said, a sensor error. But then the recordings arrived, smuggled by traders, passed hand to hand, whispered in dark comms. The shape of the human warship, the way it moved, the silence before the strike. And then, nothing. No debris field, no explosion. Just a hole, floating where a warship used to be. The Council of Galax called an emergency session, the first in over 50 cycles. 11 species sat around a shining oval of light, each one older than Earth, each one more confused than the last. They played the footage again and again, hoping it would make more sense the 5th time or the 10th. It didn't. "What kind of weapon does that?" one elder asked, its voice like wind in a cave. "A compression field," replied another, more hesitant, "but not one we've ever seen. It didn't just destroy the Kestar, it rewrote the space it was in." "Impossible," the Hishari delegate said. "Primitive races don't have that kind of science." But everyone in the room knew the truth now. Humans weren't primitive. They'd been quiet. And quiet is not the same as weak. Across the galaxy, alien empires began second-guessing their defenses. Fleets were repositioned. Patrols were doubled. Some planets activated planetary shields they hadn't touched in centuries. Others issued orders to avoid human space entirely. Even the Drexer, the insectoid monsters who had devoured over 100 worlds without blinking, halted their expansion by one whole sector. No announcements, no official change of orders, just a pause. Like even they had to think twice. And still, humanity said nothing. No broadcast, no follow-up message, no press conference or treaty proposal. Not a single word from Earth. Only the wreckage of a fallen Zarn ship drifting in low orbit, slowly pulled into Earth's gravity and broken apart in the upper atmosphere like ash in the wind. The silence was louder than any declaration of war. Some species tried to open contact. The Tavarians sent encrypted greetings. The Brock offered tribute. A few council diplomats even requested a mutual understanding of peaceful coexistence. None of them got a reply. Not from Earth. Not from the warship. The humans didn't answer. And that made the fear worse. Because you can talk to someone who wants to fight. You can negotiate with someone who wants power. But you can't reason with a force that doesn't explain itself. Oblivion didn't act like a warship. It acted like a ghost. A dark judgment passed from a forgotten grave. And what scared them most was the idea that this wasn't Earth's only weapon. Because no species builds one warship like that. Somewhere in the black, others were waiting. And the galaxy was suddenly very aware of how loud they'd been, how often they'd laughed at humans, how many times they'd turned away their pleas, how many times they said, "You don't belong out here." Now the humans were out here, and they weren't laughing. For weeks, nothing came from Earth. No voice, no declaration, no explanation. The galaxy waited, breathless, as if sound itself had been stolen from space. Star systems sat quiet on edge, like animals crouched in the brush, unsure if the shadow passing overhead would strike again. Some hoped the humans would say something, anything, to make it all feel less terrifying. Then the message came. It wasn't sent across council frequencies. It didn't come through standard comm relays or diplomatic channels. It simply appeared. Every major network across the galaxy, every public display system, every ship interface, even encrypted council satellites, all of them flickered at once, static, then black, then a single screen. A human woman stood there, back straight, eyes sharp, the faintest scar running down one side of her cheek. Her uniform was dark, not decorated. She wore no medals, no insignia, only the bare mark of her ship, HWS Oblivion. Behind her, only silence. She spoke. "Your mistake," she said calmly, "was thinking silence meant surrender." Her voice echoed like thunder across systems. "You mocked us. You erased us. You turned your backs when we reached out. We watched. We waited. And we remembered." She stepped closer to the camera. "You thought we disappeared. We didn't. We evolved. We built. And now, we are awake." The screen cut to black. Then, just one sentence appeared, written in every major language in the galaxy, even dead dialects long forgotten. "You were warned." And then, silence again. Real silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from fear, but the kind that comes when everything changes. Across council space, leaders scrambled. Messages poured into Earth's old relay routes. Peace offers, apologies, desperate attempts to start a dialogue. Some begged, some threatened, some simply asked, "What do you want?" No response. The Oblivion was gone, vanished like smoke, but not forgotten. Because now, every race in the galaxy knew what lay behind Earth's quiet, behind their exile, behind their absence. Power. Power forged not from conquest, but from memory, from pain, from resolve. They had built their warships in the dark, sharpened their soldiers in silence, and waited not for an invitation, but for justice. No one would ever look at Earth the same way again. And somewhere, deep in uncharted space, the stars shifted, just slightly, not from gravity, not from movement, but from attention. Because now, the galaxy was listening, and the humans were watching back.